Hey everybody, Chief Meteorologist Brad Petovich here. Well, kind of an interesting day from a storm standpoint. We had some clouds and a few showers this morning, which could deter storms for parts of the area, but in other locations, it might cause storms to be a little stronger. And I'll explain what's going on here, because if you've been up this early this morning and now mid-morning, you can see we've had some clouds and a big cluster of storms back to the west. Most of the energy dove into northern Georgia, but a little band did move into the Carolinas, and you can see there are some showers and storms near Winsboro, Great Falls, and then up towards the Sanford area, towards the Raleigh's area. But what's going on here is a little bit more complicated than that. That little cluster of storms was an outflow boundary, or what we call an MCS, a thunderstorm complex. The main front is still back here, and it's going to be pushing down. And so if the sun comes out in these areas behind this first batch of storms, there's a chance we could see storms re-intensify or reform. Now, I'm not totally sold on this happening in the mountains and foothills, but I think anywhere along 85 and areas south and east will be the best chance. And just to show you where the severe weather outlook is today, I'll show you real quickly. It's kind of in that area. So I do kind of agree with this right now, that this would be the area we'd watch for some strong storms. But even here, don't expect widespread storms. I think the storms this morning used up more energy than we probably anticipated yesterday, which means there won't be as much left for another large cluster of storms. But we'll keep an eye on it. And just the same, these areas around Charlotte to Fayetteville, out towards Goldsboro, Raleigh, Columbia South, those are the areas that are most likely going to see some strong storms develop this afternoon. So let's get right to the futurecast to see how this unfolds, especially now that we had these storms this morning, which have kind of changed the atmosphere a little bit. If we look at 1 o'clock this afternoon, the storms from earlier this morning are diving south. We'll go into the late afternoon hours. You see some redevelopment taking place back towards the west in areas like Greenville, Spartanburg, and around Asheville. But notice in the mountains, especially the northern mountains, not a lot going on. It looks like that area in here will be the focus for at least the pop-up storms that develop this afternoon into the evening. But notice they're pretty scattered. They're not widespread. And again, this is the short-range rapid refresh, which kind of shows it. So I'll loop this a couple of times just to kind of show you the unfolding of these storms. So it's not a washout today, and even if you have evening plans, there's a chance some of us could miss out on it. But remember, like last night, the one storms we had were right over uptown, caused some issues for the Charlotte FC Chelsea game, obviously a 1-hour delay due to lightning. So that's still a possibility that if you're in the wrong spot, you're going to run into one of these storms. So let's look at some other data, though, and see if that kind of agrees with this, because this is a really uncertain forecast this afternoon because of the storms that came in this morning. So this short range model, we're going to go back to 5 a.m. and it showed those storms over in Tennessee and did a pretty good job with how the storms unfolded this morning. You could see they moved into the Charlotte area and kind of fell apart a little bit. Now, it's not doing a really good job with the storms that are down here in Atlanta. And this is one of the things about model guidance. It's guidance. It's not a forecast. And why we often have to look at what's actually happening, because the guidance is showing this at, let me back this up. What time is it now? It's 10 a.m. That's what the guidance shows at 10 a.m. But let's look at the actual radar right now. That's the actual radar. So let me take that off. Actual radar has storms here. So it kind of whiffed. It had the cluster of storms there, but it was off, but what, by 100 miles maybe? So it's struggling with the location and intensity of these storms. So let's see what it's doing this afternoon. Maybe it'll catch on a little better. It does show storms developing around that 5, 6, 7 o'clock time frame, but mainly back into Georgia. So you get the idea. All the guidance shows the general time frame is probably going to be later in the day into the evening. And if you look carefully, even though this is much more widespread than the rapid refresh model, all of this area is the area in all the guidance where we're seeing the storms bubble up. Up to the north, it looks like a lower chance. So that's the time of day we're going to watch, the evening hours, to see what's happening. And again, you're going to look at real-time data as well to see what's happening with these storms. So let's go back to real time. We'll turn on the satellite and radar data, and you can see that's what's happening right now. That cluster of storms this morning came through quicker and came through further south, and it's actually going to eat up some of the fuel, or the cape we call it, this morning. And we'll see if the sun comes back out, especially in areas around Charlotte, Greenville, Spartanburg, Fayetteville, Raleigh. I think we will see new storms develop much later in the afternoon, more like early evening, and then push off to the south and east. So we'll keep an eye on it. Again, this is kind of the typical summer pattern. hot, humid pop-up storms, but today we got a little bit better of a trigger for storms. Of course, I'll be tracking it throughout the afternoon. If you're not going to be in front of the TV, and who is, obviously, make sure you follow me on social media or our streams, or make sure you download the WCNC app. I'll keep you up to date there. We'll send out push notifications as things change.